Once, long ago, a race of robot beings called Autobots were forced to wage war against another race of robots called Decepticons to bring peace back to their home planet of Cybertron. As the war went on, chance brought both sides to Earth. They crashed so violently on landing that all the robots lay in the Earth's crust, seemingly without life, for over 4 million years. Suddenly, the energy set in motion by a powerful volcanic eruption gives them life once more, and the war starts all over again, here on Earth. Among the robots' many strange powers is the ability to transform into other shapes, and they use this to disguise themselves to fit in with the civilization they find on Earth. The Autobots have to defend themselves, and they have to protect this planet with all its valuable resources and the people who live here. Leaders come and go. Galvatron travels back from the 21st century to take over from Megatron, commander of the Decepticons. Then, the strange disappearance of Optimus Prime leaves the Autobots without a leader, and Ultra Magnus arrives from Cybertron to take his place as the Autobots' new commander. And so the fight goes on, both now and far into the future, on different time levels. The Transformers. Galvatron's air attack. In the surgical repair shop of Metroplex, the Autobot city of Earth, Ratchet was hard at work. Several Autobots had been damaged in fighting with the Decepticons. Most were suffering from knocks and scrapes. Hot Rod had a bad dent in one side and a buckled wheel.
Come on,
He cried impatiently as Ratchet and Wheeljack looked at the damage.
It isn't all that bad. A couple of taps with a hammer and I'll be up and out of here.
Ratchet shook his head.
It isn't that easy. I can fix that wheel so that you can get about, but it'll soon have to be replaced with a new one.
I could make a replacement easily,
Said Wheeljack.
That is, if I could get the materials. Earth metals are not bad, but we really need cybernite, and there's almost none left among our stores.
Later that day, Ratchet reported to Ultra Magnus.
Unless we can get hold of the special metals like cybernite that I need to do repairs, many of the Autobots will no longer be able to function.
Ultra Magnus looked serious.
The only place we can find such things is back on our home planet, Cybertron. And we do not yet have the resources to fight off the Decepticons and return there to look for it.
Cop had been listening to the conversation.
There is a way to get supplies of those special materials,
He said.
without leaving Earth. We have fought many battles with the Decepticons since we arrived here. Some of the bigger fights left many Autobots and Decepticons wrecked and lost. I remember when I was a young Autobot, a great battle which raged from dawn till dusk in a mountain valley. I don't recall who won, but I do remember that the valley was strewn with wreckage afterwards. If the Decepticons haven't got there first, we might find what we need. If I can find the valley again.
While Cup went off to look at some maps and try to refresh his memory, Ultra Magnus set about organizing a salvage expedition to visit the old battlefield and collect everything they could that might be useful. Soon the Autobot convoy was ready to roll. Cup was to lead the way. He was sure that he could find the place. Next came Wheeljack. His job would be to choose the most useful bits and pieces. Hoist and Grapple made up the rest of the party. They would lift and drag any bigger pieces of wreckage they might find. There was a sound of running footsteps. It was Spike, the young Earth friend of the Autobots. He stopped, panting in front of Ultra Magnus, and looked up at the giant figure towering above him.
Please?
He cried.
Can I go too? I could be very useful. Earth people know a lot that even Autobots don't.
Ultra Magnus laughed.
All right, Spike,
He said.
just don't get in the way.
Thanks.
Cried Spike. Then he ran across to Cup and climbed into the cab as the engines roared and the Autobots moved out. To avoid being seen, the Autobots left their city at dusk. Night was falling as they raced along deserted roads towards the mountains and the valley where the battle had been fought so long ago. Suddenly, the northern sky was lit up by brilliant flashes of light. The flashes became streamers which rippled and glowed against the dark sky. The Autobots halted.
Take cover!
Cried Cup.
Decepticons!
Spike laughed.
That's not the Decepticons.
He said.
That's the Northern Lights. The Aurora Borealis. It won't hurt us.
What causes it?
Asked Cup.
I've been told that it's some sort of electricity in the upper atmosphere.
Said Spike.
It sometimes interferes with radio communications.
In the light of a full moon, the Autobots reached the valley. They transformed out of their vehicle shapes and stood waiting as Cup walked along the valley floor, examining the landscape. He rejoined the others.
Yes, it's just as I remember. Those were the days. We took up our positions along the hillside there. The Decepticons tried to get behind us over on that hill. One of them was a real giant. I forget what they called him now. There we were, face to face. It was me or him. And then, suddenly...
But Grapple interrupted.
Tell us all about it another time, old-timer. We're here to work, not to listen to accounts of your heroic past.
The Autobots scattered across the valley, their sensors tuned to find cybernite and other extraterrestrial metals. Spike climbed a little way up the hill and found a sheltered ledge. There he sat and searched in the moonlight for a sign of smashed machines and wrecked robots from the ancient battle. Spike strained his eyes to see in the half-light. Below him, the Autobots crossed and recrossed the valley, searching every crack and hollow. As Spike listened to the clanking sound of their metal footsteps, he suddenly heard something else. A distant whine rose to a scream and then to a roar. Like evil birds, a flight of jet aircraft swept over the hills, weapons firing. The Autobots raced for cover. Then, one by one, the planes came into land. Immediately, each transformed into a heavily armed robot.
Decepticons!
Cried Spike. From the cover of rocks and boulders, the Autobots kept up a steady fire against the enemy, forcing them to withdraw for a moment. Then Spike saw the Autobots transform again into their vehicle shapes and race at top speed for the entrance to the valley. Keeping in the shadows, he ran to meet them. Cup slowed as he saw Spike at the edge of the track. Spike threw himself into the back, and the car accelerated with the others into a narrow gorge leading out of the valley. As the Autobots beat a retreat, the Decepticons also transformed and followed them. Jets roaring, Starscream led Thrust, Cyclonus, Scourge, and Dirge low and fast in pursuit. The Autobots disappeared into the shadows of the gorge. Almost at the last moment, the Decepticons saw that the gorge was too narrow for their wingspans. They banked sharply between the rocky walls. Dirge misjudged the distance, and his wingtip showered sparks as it struck rock. Climbing vertically with pieces dropping from the damaged wing, Dirge flew clear of the gorge and back to a bumpy landing on the valley floor. Where the gorge was narrowest, the Autobots transformed again to robots. As the flying Decepticons tried to reach them, they came under fierce fire from laser weapons. At length they gave up, and the sound of their engines faded in the distance. Last to go was Dirge, wobbling into the air with the last shots of the Autobots whizzing around him. Dawn was breaking as the Autobots arrived back at Metroplex. Ultra Magnus listened to Cup's report.
We didn't find anything,
said the wise old Autobot.
but we might have done if we had not been ambushed by the Decepticons. What puzzles me is, how did they know that we were coming? There has been no Decepticon activity reported from that quarter for a long time. I checked before we left, and we saw no signs of them on the way on any of our detection systems.
They must have found some new way of keeping us under surveillance,
said Ultra Magnus.
Perhaps they have an outpost in the hills that we know nothing of.
Silverbolt spoke.
I suggest that we carry out a thorough examination of the whole area of the old battlefield. I can be ready for takeoff at first light tomorrow.
Very well,
agreed Ultra Magnus. Meanwhile, at the Decepticon base, Galvatron watched the return of Starscream, Thrust, Scourge, and Cyclonus. Dirge came into land just behind them, barely in full control. The damaged Decepticon bounced heavily on the runway and slid to a halt close to Galvatron. As the Decepticons transformed to robots, Galvatron cried,
The surveillance system. It worked.
Perfectly.
said Cyclonus.
They had no warning until we were on them.
So, they were destroyed?
Asked the Decepticon leader.
Well, no.
Replied Cyclonus.
They took refuge in a rocky canyon. We couldn't...
You couldn't deal with a bunch of simple-minded idiots like the Autobots?
Interrupted Galvatron.
And what happened to him?
He said, looking at Dirge.
I accidentally hit the rocks.
Said Dirge apologetically.
Go and get the damage seen to.
Snapped Galvatron.
And I suggest that you take some flying lessons. You haven't heard the last of this.
As the sun rose, the aerial bots, led by Silverbolt, flew into the sky above Metroplex and set course for the hills around the old battlefield. As the place came in view, Silverbolt flew low. Then, with a scream of jets, slingshot, skydive, fireflight, and air raid zoomed off to scout the land below. Immediately, Silverbolt climbed high into the morning sky, watching the smaller craft skimming the hills beneath him.